So restrictions of ihram, you're not allowed to remove your hair or nails, so you can do all this beforehand. Applying perfumes, so you're not allowed to use any scent. Covering the head or face for men. So if you're men, don't cover your head. And this is quite important because what happens is sometimes, because it's hot, I've seen people, they've finished their Umrah and they're going back to the Haram and they use the top half to cover their head. So you've had to say to people, look, if you've not shaved your head, you're still in Ihram, and that means you are in breach of Ihram. So you have to be careful about that. Also, when you're getting your hair shaved, if it's from the barbers, make sure they don't use soapy water, because until they cut the hair, you're still in ihram. Don't expect that just because people live there, they know the fiqh. And another thing is, don't copy people. When you're Hajj, doesn't matter how religious the person next to you looks, right? Go back to your scholar in your camp. Do not copy people, because you'll see people doing all sorts of stuff, which I don't know which school it's from, probably their own. Wearing stitched garments for men, so like I said, you have your sheets. Sexual intercourse or intimacy, so it's not only full marital relations, but any intimacy, which is quite important, because I remember last year in the tawaf, the main tawaf of Hajj, there was a couple from our group, and they were obviously recently married and they're holding hands doing tawaf. And if it was an intimate touch, then that would be in breach of ihram as well. So there's lots of things that people do. There's plenty of time to hold hands for the rest of your life. 2 days is not going to make a difference. Okay. Arguing, swearing, and fighting, that's very straightforward. Shoes. So the schools differ on footwear. The strictest is the Hanafi school. So the Hanafi school basically says the bone, which is in your kind of shoelace area, that needs to be completely clear, and also your ankle. So really, you're looking at flip-flops in the Hanafi school. So invest in some good ones. The Shafi'i school and the Maliki school, they say that the shoelace area can be covered, but the ankle bone has to be uncovered. So things like Crocs are fine. And the Hanbalis, you can any kind of footwear is fine. Like I said, don't look at other people. Follow the rules yourself. So that's the little diagram of the Kaaba. Unless you're extremely lucky, you will not get a chance to touch the black stone. Don't even try and touch the black stone. There's no way you're going to get near it. And if you do, you have to probably knock a few people out getting there, which again goes against the whole essence of being there. I mean, one of the things about touching the black stone is recommended, whereas hurting another Muslim is haram. So people will do the haram for a recommended action. So, and there's a Maqam Ibrahim, like I said, and so that's where we'll start from and go round.
Actually, the green light isn't actually, the green line isn't actually there.
There's a green, kind of green light, isn't there? Yeah. The green line's gone, but the green light's there. So there's the black stone. MashaAllah, if you get a chance. And obviously there's lots of things to say about the black stone. It's obviously from, it descended from a different colour. It was a lighter colour, but it's been blackened by the sins of people over time. And it will also testify for anyone who touches or kisses it. But what we do is when we start, we make ishara to it. So we make ishara and then we kiss our hands. And inshallah that would be sufficient. Maqam Ibrahim, that's like I said, when you pray there after doing tawaf, but it's so busy that really, realistically, you will not be praying there. You pray a lot behind it. Then you have Zamzam, and Zamzam, there's lots of places where you can drink Zamzam, and there's no restriction, so take your time. It's important as well to drink a lot because it's so hot there. So usually come into the Haram, have a couple of glasses of Zamzam. When you're leaving, have a couple of glasses of Zamzam, and also remember every time to make dua when you're drinking it. And then Safa Marwa, the two green lights where you see people going a little bit quicker, that's where Hajar alayhi salam ran in between those 2 points, and the reason they say that she ran is because it was a valley, and at that point she couldn't see Ismail alayhi salam, so she ran quickly so she could see her son again. But that's only for men, only men run, and to be honest, you won't be running, you probably lightly jog because of the number of people there. Okay, and then shaving or trimming your head. Okay. There'll be places just outside the haram, but it's probably best just to go near back to your hotel and go to a barber. Okay. What, shave or trim? It's obviously better to shave than to trim. The Prophet ﷺ made dua for those who shave their head, and then some people ask, what about those who trim it? And he said those who shave their heads 3 times, and then he mentioned the ones who trim it, emphasizing the superiority of shaving over trimming. Making the most of Makkah. So once you're out of ihram, you want to make the most. Obviously the first thing is your 5 daily prayers. You don't want to miss that, and it's very easy to not get into the haram because there's so much work going on that you need to, before every salah, you need to go 1.5 hours before the salah if you want to be guaranteed to get in the haram. We've gone an hour before and found we couldn't get in. On the day of Jummah, we went at 9 o'clock in the morning and we couldn't get in, and they'd closed the gates. But then thankfully we realized that on the left hand side the new part of the haram is open, and if you go towards that direction you find this loss of space, but you can't actually see the Kaaba, right? That's the only thing. So bear in mind that you need to get your timings right when you're there, and inshallah you'll pick up when you're there. Obviously if it's Dhuhr, I remember going out for Dhuhr and then getting caught not getting in, and then you obviously got the sun issue because you're standing baking under the sun, so you have to be careful. You have to be very careful how you time these things. Sometimes people would decide that they would only go for certain prayers inside the haram, and the rest they would either pray outside or go to the new part where you can't see the Kaaba. So you have to make a choice sometimes. Making tawaf. So the best place, the only place in the world you can make tawaf is in Mecca, the Kaaba, and therefore, like we have what's called Tahiyyat al-Masjid. When you go into any mosque, the haram is a mosque, you're recommended to pray 2 rak'ahs, isn't it? Except for, they say the only exception is the haram, because there it's actually recommended to do tawaf. So to actually, the tahiyyah of the masjid is actually tawaf. So ideally, every time you'd go into the haram, you'd try and do tawaf. Now again, because of the sheer number of people, that's not practical, and you will not be able to do that all the time. So you obviously just pray 2 rak'ahs, and whenever you get a chance to do tawaf, maybe at night time or after Fajr or whatever, when it's a bit quieter, try to do so. And that'd be just a nafil tawaf. You'd also have to pray 2 rak'ahs after each nafil tawaf. Making dhikr, reading Quran, making dhikr. So there's lots of Qurans around. Try to do a khatam of Quran if you can. Read as much Quran as possible. Do different types of dhikr. Even when you're doing tawaf, you can recite Quran, or you can do dhikr as you're doing it. So you're combining between tawaf and dhikr. Just sitting in the masjid. So every time you go into the masjid, make the intention of i'tikaf. So i'tikaf, as we know, the sunnah is in the month of Ramadan, the last 10 days, but it's recommended nafil tawaf and nafil i'tikaf. You can do it any time for any masjid at even a moment. So even if you're going in for a prayer, make the intention of i'tikaf, because everything gets multiplied. We know that one salah in the haram, in terms of reward, is multiplied by 100,000 times. In Medina, it's multiplied by 1,000 times, and in Bayt al-Maqdis is multiplied by 500 times. Times of reward. You're making prayers that you're making, they're all going to get multiplied. There's also an opinion that it's not just in the haram, it's anywhere in Makkah. So there's 2 opinions on that issue. So and other ulama say that everything that you, just like Ramadan, everything you do gets multiplied. Every good action you do gets multiplied. And also some scholars are of the opinion that every wrong action you do also gets multiplied. So it's a great opportunity. One of the things you've got to remember is, you've been eating burgers your entire life. You've been eating Pizza Hut for your entire life. You've been having ice cream for your entire life. You've been sleeping your entire life. You don't want to go there and all you do is sleep, eat burgers, go shopping. I mean, you want to go next, go now, right? Why do you want to go to the best place in the world and then come out the haram and go and get distracted by shops and shopping centres? There's a hadith, أحب البلاد إلى الله مساجدها وأبغض البلاد إلى الله أسواقها. The most beloved of places are the mosques, and the worst of places are the marketplace or shopping centres. So you got the best of the world, and then you walk out and you see the worst of the world, and you'll be amazed how many people are in the worst of the world instead of the best of the world. So like I said, don't follow anyone. You're not there to eat. You're not there to be in your 5-star, comfortable hotel room. You're there for a few days, and you want to spend as much of that in the haram, and you do not know whether you will get that chance again. Right? That's something you better keep in your mind. You do not know whether you ever get a chance to do that again. Even if it's Umrah, you don't know. You might have an accident. You might not be able to do it again because of that. And so, like one of the brothers was telling me, like because of Brexit, the pound value has fallen. So the price for Hajj is probably going to go, if the pound stays where it is, it's probably going to be a lot higher next year as well. So you don't know if you'll be able to afford to go to Hajj again. Right? So keep that all in mind. Resting at regular intervals is a very important point. Just like Ramadan, you know what happens in Ramadan? People begin and they get all excited in the first couple of days. They really push themselves, and then tiredness kicks in, and they get a bit more fatigued. And the point the point where they're supposed to accelerate, the last 10 days, they're burnt out. Same thing can happen at Hajj, where some people, they're so excited, they're just pushing themselves every day, and then when it comes to Hajj, they actually fall ill. So you don't want to do that. It's a fine balancing act. By all means, pray as much as you can, but at the same time, know yourself, know your body, right? Listen to your body. If your body's saying you need to rest, then rest. Okay. So make sure that you don't burn yourself out before even Hajj begins, because Hajj has become very difficult now. It really has become very difficult now, physically. Visiting friends and family from okay, that's you can see other people, make sure everyone's okay. Sightseeing. Now, I don't know who put sightseeing there, but I think what they meant, they got excited. I think what they meant was, like seeing the historical sites in Mecca and Medina, and you can. It's very easy to organise that. Sometimes your own group will organise it, or there's like buses that take you to the main kind of place. So, like for example, the Ghar Hira, the cave of Hira, where the Prophet had first revelation, and other sites in Mecca and Medina, and just your group and your friends. Okay. Other things, additional Umrah. Yes, you can. Once you've done your Umrah, you can do another Umrah if you want. All you would do is you would go out to the nearest place where you can put your ihram on. Most people go to what's called Masjid Aisha. It's on 10 minutes away or something. Put your ihram on, you come back and do Umrah again. But like I said, you really have to weigh up whether you're going to burn yourself out by doing that. Because some people have done that. They've done additional Umrahs and then they're just so their legs are swollen up, or then they have to be wheeled a bit in a wheelchair, and then you're obviously causing issues for other people who've got to look after you. Looking at the Kaaba, like I said, just looking at the Kaaba is an act of worship. Spend as much time looking at it as you can.